Sol Veta Omnes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. What are we? We're doing Caesar. I was about to say, welcome back to class. It's like, yeah, we don't have class. Yeah. All right. So, welcome back to our continuing coverage of Caesar. We are almost finished with Book 5. Just a few sections left, so probably 2 more videos to finish off Caesar 5, and then dive into Caesar Book 6. So, we just ended with 544, one of my favorite scenes involving Pulo and Vorenus, rivals who ultimately help each other because what's good for them is good for Rome. So, we pick up now in section 45 of Book 5. Although you have great heroics in previous passages, things are still quite dire for Cicero's camp. So, let's dive in. Quanto erat in dies gravior, et adqua asperior abpugnatio, et maxime quod magna parte militum confecta vulneribus, res ad pagatatem defensorum pervenerat. Tanto crebriores literae nunti quad caesarem bantur. Quorum pars deprehensa in conspectu nostrorum militum cum cruciatu necabatur. So, we're starting off with a correlative statement, basically as much as. So, by how much, but to the extent that this happens, to that same extent, to such an extent, the rest of this happens. Or I guess this happens. And then you get the result of that. So, by how much there was in dies. In dies means kind of day by day here, like upon the day. So I imagine that you're stacking days is kind of how I might view it. But it's something along the lines of like day by day. So by how much the fighting was more serious and more difficult day by day. And mostly, especially, perhaps just very much, and because, quote, because the matter was arriving, or was like coming to the paucity, the scarceness of the defenses, or I guess the defenders. And then you get an ablative absolute that I skipped over. So, because this matter was very much coming to the scarcity of defenses, with a great part of soldiers, magna parte militum, with a great part of the soldiers worn out by wounds. So here, ablative absolute. Here, ablative of means within or attached to that ablative absolute. So, by how much the fighting was basically getting worse day by day, especially because a great part of the enemy, this is not a literal translation, but especially because a great part of the enemy was worn out by wounds, and how much this matter was kind of arriving at a tipping point, you might say, because of the scarcity of the soldiers. By that much, to such an extent, more frequent letters and messengers were being sent to Caesar. So as the day as the fighting and whatnot gets worse, the letters get more frequent. Very simple to see how that might become the case. So messengers and letters and messengers, and I think litar here does mean letters. We talked about this in one of my previous videos, where litera means a letter. Like, that is the letter L. That is the letter T. Right? But literae doesn't mean, oh, look, there are 4 letters there. Literae, in the plural, means a letter. Right? A missive, an epistle, whatever you want to refer to that. A message, basically, right? But I think here, so like there's no plural of a plural, and so when you see literae, you're just usually to assume one letter. But I think here multiple letters are understood. I think it's quite clear that multiple letters and multiple messengers are being sent on like a daily basis. So usually assume one letter unless context just makes it clear that you're dealing with multiple letters. I don't know why he didn't use epistolae or something. That would have been more sensible, I think. My guess is literae is a more common word. I think Caesar tends to use the more common vocabulary when he can. All right, messengers and letters are sent to Caesar. Part of these letters and messengers, quorum here being masculine, being attracted to the gender of nuntii, so part of which, having been seized, and I'm not quite sure where you want to put this prepositional phrase. It means in the sight of our soldiers. Are they seized in the sight of our soldiers? That's entirely possible. Or were they being killed with torture? Were they being tortured and killed in the sight of our soldiers? So maybe they catch them far away and then bring them to the camp, torture, and kill them there. I'm not entirely sure. If you think you can take it either way. They are seized in sight of our soldiers, which is not good, right? It means like they're sending out these messengers trying to get to Caesar, and they're like immediately caught. I think they're definitely then also, they were killed with torture in front of, or in the sight of our soldiers. So definitely not good, right? You're losing men, or at least, if they're not soldiers, if they're like slaves or messengers, you're at least losing just pure manpower on a daily basis, which is not ideal. All right. Erat unus intus nervius nomine vertico, loco natus honesto, qui a prima obsidione ad Cicerone perfugerat, suamque fidem praestiterat. So, there was one Nervian among them, or like kind of within, I think intus here an adverb, but kind of referring to in the camp. So there was one Nervian kind of like within, named Vertico, born from an honest location, from a lower location, who, from the first siege, or from the beginning of the siege, I should say, from the beginning of the siege, had fled to Cicero and had displayed his loyalty to him, performed his loyalty to him. Hic servos spe libertatis magnisque persuadet primis, ut litras ad Caesarem deferat. So what does he do? So this Nervian, this guy, persuaded his slave. Servo here dative as the object of persuaded. So he persuaded his slave with this ablative, or these ablatives, with the hope of liberty, with the hope of freedom, and with great rewards. He persuaded him, indirect command, he persuaded him to carry a letter, to carry a message, and I think this is a singular letter here, to carry a message to Caesar. I don't know what, I don't know much historical context about Vertigo, if we know anything else about this man. I mean, he is more from an honest location, so it's not like he's got tons of Gallic history written about him, most likely. I'm wondering why he fled to Cicero at the beginning of the siege. Like, he's part of, like, what would become the, at least for a while, the winning side. Spoilers, they don't win. So I find it weird that he would, like, start sieging this camp and then immediately, like, run to the people being besieged and, like, ask for their help. And then show his loyalty to them, and it's like, and not be a traitor. He doesn't betray them. Spoilers. At least not at this point. Maybe he betrays them later or something, but he doesn't. So yeah, it's just kind of an odd situation, I find, about how this is all going on. So maybe he's in such a situation where, look, he's going to be killed by his men. There's nothing for him in Nervi, so maybe if the Romans hold out and I help them, they'll give me some sort of prestige that my hometown won't. I don't know. It's definitely an interesting situation. All right. Has ille in Jaculo illegatas effert, et Gallus inter Gallos, sine ullus suspicione versatus ad Caesarem pervenit. Ab eo de periculis Ciceronis legionis qua cognoscitor. So that guy, which would be the slave here, ille, shows a change of subject. So we were talking about Vertico. The other person mentioned was the slave. And so that one, that is the slave, carried out this letter, has litras, plural because the word is plural, but again, one letter. Carried out, carries out, it is present tense technically, carries out this letter tied on a javelin in Iacolo. Tied on a javelin or tied perhaps to a javelin, we might say. And kind of, I don't want to translate this, having kind of turned about, I was just going to translate something like having gone as a Gaul among the Gauls without any suspicion, so kind of having traversed as a Gaul among Gauls without any suspicion, he arrives to Caesar. So this slave is a Gaul. He looks like a Gaul. He's going to speak Gaelic, Gaul, whatever the Gauls speak. I assume Gaelic. That's not true. That's not true. Gaelic is Irish. Well, they're all kind of Gauls too. Sorry. I don't know. But speaking what will become French eventually, he fits in. And so it's just like, just a Gaul on a horse with a spear. Not unusual to see. So he makes it to Caesar. And by, I'm going to say him here, referring to the slave, from him, concerning the dangers of Cicero and the legion, he is made aware, and this would be Caesar. So he reaches to Caesar, and Caesar is informed by him about the dangers of Cicero and the legion. So, success. Caesar finally understands that one of his legions is under duress. He might have learned also about Titurius and Sabinus' legion, but definitely knows that Cicero's camp is under attack. So, time to act. So let's take a look at 46. Caesar, acceptis literis, ora circiter undecem, die, statim nuntium in Bellovacos ad Marcum Crassum quaestora mittit, cuius hiberna aberrant, et eo milia passum viginti et quinqua. Iubet media nocte legionem proficisci calere terqua ad se venire. So Caesar, with the letter accepted or received, and I think this is ablative of time when, and I'm going to say, I think it happens basically at the same time, right? So whether the letter was received around the 11th hour of the day, so this would be about an hour before sundown, right? The first hour begins at dawn, whenever that is. The first hour begins at dawn, and the 12th hour is dusk. So he's getting this at the 11th hour. So there's only, a little bit of daylight left. Not ideal for, marching hours. I mean, because you want to sleep. You've been up all day. So either with the letter received at the 8th hour or the 11th hour of the day, or perhaps he immediately, around the 11th hour of the day, he immediately sends a messenger into the Bellovaci to Marcus Crassus, the quaestor. Ultimately, the statim, they're happening at the same time, right? He gets the letter and immediately sends. So they're both happening around the 11th hour. Probably more with Acceptes, but you could put it wherever you want, I think. It makes more sense with Acceptes Literis, but I would prefer it inside the ablative absolute. I like my packages to be nicely contained. So he sends a messenger to Marcus Crassus, whose camp, that is Crassus's camp, was away from him. Aberrant Abea was away from him 25 miles, 25,000 of steps, right? Miliapossum, you can just translate as miles, literally means thousands of steps or perhaps thousands of paces, which is a mile. So 25 miles away from him. He orders well, actually, I guess he orders the Legion, I should say. Yeah, he orders the Legion in the middle of the night to set out and to quickly come to him, to quickly meet with him. So, yeah, 25 miles. If you're running by, I mean, I don't know how fast horses go. If you're running by horses, you would get there about the middle of the night. So as soon as you get the letter, get up and march and meet, and basically at dawn. Exit cum nuntio, Crassus. Crassus leaves with the message. And so, yeah, this is a phrase, like, I don't know. Like, I've heard it in English. It makes sense. I don't know how common it is. I don't know where I've heard it, because I definitely don't hear that much. But basically, like, with him, it's when he hears the message, he leaves, right? He doesn't delay and think, okay, well, I'll get my soldiers a couple extra, another hour of sleep or something. No, the messenger kind of walks in the door and he walks out the door is kind of the idea, right? So Crassus leaves with the message. Alterum ad Gaium Fabium legatum mittit, ut in attribatium fines legionem adducat, qua sibi iter faciendum sciebat. Caesar, the understood subject here, so he sends another messenger nuntium to Gaius Fabius the legate, telling him to, in direct command, to lead his legion into the borders in Fines, into the borders of the Atrebates, where, qua, in which place, he knew that a journey must be made by him. So Caesar needs help. His whatever force he might have with him isn't going to be enough, so he needs support from Crassus. He also sends a messenger to Gaius Fabius, telling him to secure the route. Right? He's going to have to make a journey through the Atrebates, so it's kind of sending a police force ahead to clear the traffic. Faciendum here, gerundive, showing purpose, or necessity, I should say, passive paraphrastic, so sibi dative as the kind of subject of faciendum. He knew that a journey for him must be made, or must be made by him. You can translate it as an ablative. Scribit Labieno, si re publica commodo facere posset, cum legione ad fines nerviorum veniat. He writes to Labienus. I guess that understood, kind of dealing with indirect question, but it's all dealing with subjunctives, right? He writes to Labienus kind of that if he was able to make a journey, or if he was able to do it conveniently for the Republic. This is a weird phrase, because I don't see a direct object here, and it could be that there's a typo. I'm going to check my other text, because normally Fakra needs an object. But yeah, he orders or asks, that if Labienus is able to do it conveniently, or is able to act with convenience or advantage or interest to the Republic. So basically, Labienus, if you can, and not leave, Rome or the Empire or some strategic point open to attack, if you can do this easily, then with a legion, come to the borders of the Nervii. So he wants he knows he can get support from Crassus, so he orders Crassus to come and support him. He knows he needs to make a journey through a perhaps dicey part of Gaul, and so he has Gaius Fabius kind of secure the route. And if he can get extra reinforcements from Labienus, he asks for it. But he knows that Labienus is in kind of a precarious position, so if it's not convenient to leave, then don't. Reliquam partem exercitus, quod palo abrat longius, non pudat expectandum. Equites ciciter quadrigentos et proximisi Bernis colleget. The remaining part of the army, I'm going to start with this even though it is technically accusative, right? The remaining part of the army, reliquam partem exercitus, fourth declension, the remaining part of the army, because it was a little farther away, it was longer by a little bit, a comparative and an ablative of degree of difference. Because it was a little farther away, he does not think, that is, Caesar does not think, that this other part of the army should be expected, or could be expected, or must be expected. Again, this is really kind of a pure, I would say, future passive participle. So I don't think you have to say a necessity. I don't think you say he thinks it must not be expected. I just think it's literally he doesn't think it is expectable. I guess you could also put esse in there and to make it. Actually, that's not how you make the passive infinitive. Yeah, I think it's just a future passive participle. He does not think the remaining part of the army is to be expected. So he's doing what he can because time is of the essence, right? He knows that Cicero is under duress. So he collects, that is Caesar, collects around 400 cavalry, 400 equites, knights, horsemen, cavalry. He gathers around 400 of them from the nearby winter camps. So Caesar likes his cavalry. They're fast, they're mobile. Right, he could have taken all of Britain over if only the cavalry had arrived to the island. That was the one thing that was lacking for Caesar. All right, there we go. So Caesar about to head out. So we'll find out how that turns out for him in the next video. But we'll stop there for this one. As always, if you have any questions, comment down below or hit me up in class or email. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Later.